Hi everybody, I'm Bill, and I have a confession for you. I didn't start reading through the Bible plan that we're doing as a church until the lockdown happened. I all of a sudden found myself, like you probably do, with a lot more time on my hands and was able to finally do it. I intended to, was going to start it, but then I finally did. In addition, I only did the partial plan when I started. I eventually switched over to the whole plan, and I'm really glad I did. I've been getting a lot out of it, and hope that you have too. I really am one of the people who are glad that we're going through the Psalms again, because I'm catching up on the ones I didn't catch the first time around. I'm using a chronological study Bible. It's a special Bible that, as the name implies, puts things in order as it goes through time-wise. And it takes me a little longer to read each day, because it's got these notes and descriptions with it, extra commentaries that go through, but then as the name implies, it goes through in order. And so you'll be cruising along, but when we got to 1 Kings, 1 Samuel, some of the other books, all of a sudden it started intermixing the prophets, even the Proverbs, the Psalms, things that had happened in order. So I constantly find myself looking at the index of this book going, wait, where are we again to? And it's not unusual that even in the course of just one reading, I'll be back and forth 2 or 3 different places. But I would highly recommend, if you ever get a chance to read through the Bible chronologically, that you do so. I'm also amazed at how the 3 passages, the 3 groups of scriptures we read each day, the Old Testament, the New Testament, and the Psalm, overlap with each other. And you've seen this through the Bible studies that the ministers have been doing, the devotionals, where they pull out and say, look at how the Old Testament passage corresponds with the New Testament, or here's something from Psalms. Whether it was intentional or not, I think it's God's provision that those verses have all blended together, and that's been really neat. I've read through the Bible before, it was just mainly just checking the box, not like this, and it's been really great. I write things down when they come to me, or verses too, and this is a verse, it's Joshua 1:9. It's from March 18th. I know that because the back of it's from an old calendar. And you see this paper, I'll let you look it up, it's a pretty famous passage. It's pretty wrinkled and kind of old. That's because when I wrote it down, it spoke to me at the time, and I put it on our kitchen counter. It was kind of a word of encouragement for our whole family. Well, since then, it's been covered up, it's gotten wet, it's been moved around, but every once in a while it'll just surface. You'll lift up a piece of paper or something on the counter and you see it again. It's a note of encouragement that pops up just when it needs to. I would encourage you to write a verse down that means something to you and put it somewhere you're going to see it, or it just shows up like this too, because it's been a real blessing for our family. What I wanted to talk to you about, though, most of all, as the plane goes over my head, is a passage that we read early on, that I had read before lots of times, and you have too. It's from John 11. And John 11 is the story of Lazarus raising from the dead, Jesus raising Lazarus from the dead. I've heard this story before too, you probably have, and one of the things I think of with this story was a funny incident that happened early on, a long time ago. I heard a guy who had memorized the whole book of John, word for word. It was a one-man show. He did this stage show where he got up and just started acting out the book of John. That sounds interesting, right? But when he actually did it, it was fascinating, because the words just hearing someone say them and act a little bit of it out was really impressive and brought a whole new angle to this. The thing that sticks out most is he's cruising along and he gets to chapter 11, this chapter, and he reads this passage and he reads word for word, because what it says is, Jesus said in a very loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. People in the audience at this time, all of us are kind of settling in, we're listening, and this is interesting, and he said, and Jesus said in a very loud voice, Lazarus, come forth! And all of a sudden, all of us were wide awake and going through it too. I think of that passage and how Jesus really yelled that out, and Lazarus did come forth. A lot of different theories on that, about why he had to be dead for a couple days, and the fact that he spoke from the dead too, but that's a topic for another time. This time when I read it through, on April 1st of this year, I had written down in a little book that I have here too, and it struck me that both Mary and Martha, in verse 21 and verse 32 respectively, say to Jesus the exact same thing, the exact same words. Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. I wrote, Jesus is with us all the time through his Holy Spirit, but we act like this. Where is God in the middle of blank? Fill in the blank. Today it's the coronavirus, it's the pandemic, it's the strife going on, it's having to stay at home, it's anything you're dealing with that we're dealing with together. Where is God in the middle of this? God is here, even when we don't see him or feel him, and he can and will do wondrous and miraculous things even if it's after. Mary and Martha couldn't see what Jesus was about to do. He wasn't there when they thought he wasn't there, but he really was. And he showed up, and after it was all over, did miraculous things beyond what they could imagine. And God's going to do that too. God's here even when we can't see him and feel him. And he's going to do miraculous things even if it's after all this is over. So today, may you know his presence. May you see and feel him around you. May you see that he's at work, and may we all be encouraged to know that he's always with us and will be doing miraculous things, even if it's after all this is over. Have a great day.